Hello and welcome to the 21st Century Work Life podcast, where we talk about leading remote teams, online collaboration, and working in distributed organizations. My name is Pilar and I'm the director of Virtual Not Distant, a company where we help managers of remote teams to get the most out of online collaboration. You can find out everything we do over at virtualnotdistant.com. Hello and welcome to episode 324 of the 21st Century Work Life podcast. Today we have a What's Going On episode, and I'm going to remember to timestamp it right at the beginning. We are recording on the 23rd of March 2023. And when I say we, I mean myself, Pilar Orti. Lovely, we haven't met before. And of course, with me today is co-host Maya Middlemiss. Hello, Maya.
Hello, Pilar. Hello, listeners. Good to be back.
Yay! It's always good to be back. Cannot be taken for granted. So we've got today's episode. It's still a what's going on, but it's got a big theme to it. And I don't know what it's going to be titled yet. It will depend what comes out of the conversation. But it's really about controlling the technology before it controls you. And we have lots of different points around this, and we have a couple of articles you can look at. And I don't know about you, Maya, but I feel a bit like, I want to be very careful with this episode, because a lot of the technology I use, I absolutely love. A lot of it is free. And we're mainly going to focus on technology that allows people to work together in remote teams, but we might drift off. But looking at that, there's a lot of stuff that's free, that's really good, that's really stable, that's been around for ages, that I've been using for a long while, and really good stuff. However, at the same time, maybe because we've been around looking at this for so long, we're seeing some shifts, and it's just, I'm like a happy user, but I have some stuff I need to get off my chest at the same time. I don't know about you. What do you think?
Yeah, it does feel like there's lots of things moving quite fast. There's lots of new shiny. There's lots of things that, maybe they're just shiny and there's nothing underneath. We'll see. So let's unpack it.
Okay. So while we know, again, that technology is essential for most teams, we also seeing, as you say, the platforms are starting to compete with each other. At least we're seeing that a little bit more. And we've mentioned stuff before, like some of the features, they're all adopting some of the similar features. Something I've noticed is Google Docs looks amazing now. It's really having updates. It looks very good. And we've mentioned before, the Trello text editor in the description in the cards is evolving. And it's at the same time, as well as these wonderful updates, I'm also seeing more of the apps suggesting things to you, which sometimes might interfere with the work. And one of the things I've always changed in, for example, in Google, in Gmail, and the documents have been these suggestions that come up for when you start to type. You say hello, and it suggests that you say something else. So I've turned that off, because I think it interferes with me, with my communication and my work. Someone else might like it and keep it, but
it's awful that to turn that off as soon as it appeared. Very strange. But I think it can have a higher level interference in teams as well, where suddenly you can do all these things in all the things. And like, you might have decided long ago as a team that you use Google Docs for your collaborative documents, but you talk about it in a Slack channel, and then suddenly the comments has got so good in Google Docs now that people are more inclined to spread the conversation there, and everything's overlapping each other's functionality, that it might be time to review a communications agreement in your team, or have a look at it almost from scratch again. If you have lots of different apps to do different things, maybe they can all be done in one place now. That's obviously what the app developers want, is you use their app and you live and die in it, and everything you need to do can be done in one place. That might or might not suit you best, though.
Yeah, but I think the point you make about revisiting how we're using it together is something that I didn't expect would happen. Like I would expect to have to revisit a team agreement because, well, one, because something's changed in the team or because we're using a different set of tools or whatever. But I never thought that the tools could evolve in such a way that actually we'd need to come back and go, right, do we want to continue conversing here? Do we want to start? What do we want to do?
Yeah, it's like you said with the working title, who's in control here?
Yes.
Is it us or is it the apps which are now suggesting that we have this conversation here, right around the work? And it might make a lot of sense, but not if one person on the team doesn't know about it and they still think there's nothing going on that project because it's not happening in the Slack channel anymore.
Yeah. And behind some of this, of course, we know that, as I was saying, a lot of the tools have been free for a while, and at some point the organizations, they need to make money because they are businesses, let's remember. And as you say, some of the things they're trying to do is to get us back on the platform, to use it more, to use it for more things. And today I had a look at, well, actually it comes by email, Seth's blog, which of course Seth Godin, where he's got a post about, it's called "They Will Lose Your Data." And it is all about also how, as well as using the apps for our work and real-time work, we're also using a lot of places for storage and think that is safe. So that's what he's saying. But the reason why I wanted to mention this post, and we'll link to it in the show notes, is that there was a quote. Well, it basically said that, they've got to keep evolving. They've got to make the cash. And that is what their focus is, more on the commercial aspect of it. That's the thing. They want you to believe that they will effortlessly and seamlessly maintain all the data you trust to them, but they actually spend most of their time focused on other things that they deem more commercially important. And I think we need to remember that, even if we're not the ones paying the bill, because this is what our organization is providing for us, that this is not like an office space maybe where you rent it and that's it, and the landlords leave you alone. And this is actually where we're working in. There's a whole load of people behind it that are looking after a business, not just the product you're using.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because we do get very used to a lot of things being free online, from content to functionality. But these are commercial businesses, and also the whole environment of how tech is funded has changed. I think we're going to see less free stuff going forward because people aren't getting, a year to fiddle around with product market fit before you have to make any profit. Funders want a bit more revenue before that, and they want proof of concept. So I think we're going to see less stuff given away for free. And it'd be interesting to see what effect that has on us as consumers. Does it make us less likely to try new things and to get sucked in by how great it is before they suddenly stop charging for it? I think another thing I've seen as a freelancer is there's a lot of cool apps out there that are mostly free for single users, but the minute you want to collaborate with anybody, that's when you have to go on a pro level. And that's the kind of thing that we could see shaping the way teams work. And sometimes you can hack around and share a login and things like that, but it doesn't really work so well. And Seth's right. If you're not using it in the way it was intended, you're more likely to lose stuff and have things that aren't saved, or you reached a capacity limit you didn't know was there because you're in the free version. If you want to get it back, they've probably got it somewhere, but you might have to upgrade first. And I think it might change our relationship with software as a service a bit. And it's not about blame, but in some ways, the industry has a lot to answer for giving us so much for free to start with. And we need a little bit of a reminder that stuff needs paying for, and it costs money to develop and keep things updated, to keep things secure. We are used to getting an awful lot for free, like Google Docs. We were just saying how pretty it's looking now on its latest updates, and most of us aren't paying for that in any way. And Google can afford it, but most smaller companies can't. So if we want them to keep developing and keep pushing the latest changes and designs and everything like that, then I suppose we have to think about putting our hands in our pockets.
Yeah, and especially those of us using it for business, it's a business expense. I never complained when I had to pay the rent for the office.
Exactly.
I did complain.
But you don't have a choice, do you?
Yes, exactly.
I'll see if I can use the free office outside on the pavement or something.
Yeah, and it makes complete sense. I think that it's just suddenly all. I think the free space was the space in which we were all playing in together as developers and consumers. And now the developers have to really make it work whilst we want to continue playing.
Yes, and let's play on, and things are moving so fast as well. It's weird to think that even like 4 or 5 years ago, it might have been quite normal to buy a lot of software once. And you buy one unlock code and you own it for life. Whereas now things are just updating so quickly. That would seem a crazy way to buy anything software related.
It's making me think that, we've always said that the online spaces are your office, but this is really feeling like that. Like when I was running Forbidden, we had an office space and we could fit one person or two people in. And if we wanted more people to come in, then we had to buy a bigger space. And it reminds me what you're saying about adding collaborators to spaces now costs you.
Yes.
And
It makes sense though. And then I suppose the good thing is that if you have to downsize your team or something, you can probably reduce the seats in your online app much more quickly than that lease you had on the desk and you're stuck with for the rest of the year.
That's true. The flexibility, they do give very good flexibility. So in this vein, we've got some things to cover. Some will be more specific features that at least I can complain about. Then the integration of AI, of course. Maybe we can touch on phones as well. And then maybe we can end with what we really like about the tools we use. And then we've got some small other news and some community news. So let's start. Actually, I think it was this one that prompted this conversation, which was a message that I got from Slack, a notification, an email notification, which instead of saying you have a new direct message, it said one message waiting for your response. Ooh. And I thought, no, this is the whole point. I mean, there's always been this thing with Slack that some people use it as a chat app and other people use it as an asynchronous collaboration platform. But its strength is still, for me, the asynchronous nature of it. And the fact that I am being prompted to very quickly go to check it, I thought, oh, no.
Yeah, that really does feel like it's designed to ramp up the synchronicity and the feeling of stress you get. Oh no, it's 3 messages now. I have to go and I have to drop what I'm doing and go and respond to that before the number goes up any further. I think that's very retrograde. I don't know can you turn that off or something if you decide consciously as a team you're going to work asynchronously.
Yeah, well, you can turn off the notifications, but not the wording, which is, I don't mind it telling me I have a message. That's great. Someone sent you a direct message. Okay. And like you say, I can control that. But the wording of waiting for your response. No, they're not waiting.
So yes, your message is sitting there folding its arms and tapping its feet, looking disapprovingly at you while you try and get on with something else.
They're not waiting. LinkedIn did the same thing. I mean, it's a different kind of environment, but LinkedIn also changed it. I think it used to be that we had a new message and now it's waiting. Someone is waiting for us to respond. So this is something I hope that at some point all these kind of platforms don't feel like they have to urge you to go and check.
Yeah, we can choose our own level of urgency about things. Actually, Gmail does that as well, doesn't it? It's like, you received this 4 days ago. Aren't you going to reply? No, It doesn't need a reply.
Yeah, LinkedIn does that as well. Yeah. If you don't reply to a message.
And LinkedIn, it's probably rubbish anyway.
So this is the first one. Then I saw some research about killing time at work. What was this? Was this the research from GitLab? Let me just double check with the link. Yeah. So killing time at work, I think it came out last year in June, and it was some research that Catalog and GitLab did, really looking at these kind of ways of working and how using technology, notifications, etc. And in the summary, it's worth downloading the research, but in the summary it says that the average knowledge worker now receives notifications from 6 applications, and 73% of workers reply to these notifications outside of their working hours, making it hard to switch off. So what's interesting is we've been using apps that have notifications for a very long time, but still they're winning.
Yes, and a lot of people still haven't figured out how to control them and set them and customize them to what you need. Or you do all that and then an update gets pushed out that turns the notifications on again. I think that maybe we've got so used to stuff just being automatically, or you automatically transfers when you get a new phone, you just back it all up, but not all the settings necessarily perpetuate, and you can end up with all the notifications going to their most screaming in your face level again when you just got the hang of it. You do need to almost develop a habit, or to just have a bit of maintenance time to keep control of your notifications and devices if you're going to switch them off. Somebody close to me, who I won't name, but who doesn't listen to podcasts anyway, got an Apple Watch recently, and I don't know what he clicked somewhere, but it put all his apps and notifications on his wrist as well. So suddenly it was like in the evening, God, is that a Slack logo on your watch or something? It's like, yeah, I should take that off. So you don't want work Slacks while you're having dinner. There's absolutely no reason. He got them under control on his phone, but somehow they were all pinging on his watch until he got a grip with that.
Yeah. Wow. That feels so invasive. Wow. Okay. You said something that I was going to come back on to. Never mind. It's gone. Yes. So yeah, no, I know what it was. The image that was coming to mind when you said maintenance or housekeeping of the notifications is the same as your desk. If people are leaving stuff on your desk all the time and you just leave everything there and you never tidy it up, it's the same kind of thing. Like now we have to do a cleanup of our communication system.
Some people might be super organized and leave a tidy desk every night. Others, you might have to just once a month go in with a skip and a bucket. But still has to be done.
And I think if we're in a team and using these kind of apps, and especially if we're the person that's looking after the maintenance of them, or we're the person that's looking after team communications, then whether we're a manager or not, then maybe this should be part of our regular team review as well with the agreement, and also just check that everyone is. It's always been a well-being aspect, but it really is a health aspect now, And it's not just about the right to disconnect and all of that. This is about the stress that we're seeing, the changes in technology. And it's not just adopting a new tool. It's the fact that you log in and something has changed and no one warned you. That's not good for our health.
Yeah. And the better the devices get and the more integrated in our lives, or the way that the apps perpetuate over to your new wearables with that, and you didn't even know it was going to do that. These are the things that we have to deal with now. And it's, even if we set our agreement years ago that we're going to use this tool for this certain thing, it might need reviewing, because maybe it would make sense to get a Slack message on your Apple Watch in the middle of the night in one emergency channel that says the building's on fire. But if you get every message there, then you'll miss the one about the building being on fire because you've got all the chit chat from the night shift going on. So, if we've got this amazing functionality now on these devices that we utterly take for granted in most of the time about our persons all the time, we can use them really, really intentionally, but not without that bit of thinking about it first and discussing it and agreeing it.
So I'm going to skip the next bullet, and because that can come with the next point, but something else that not the next one, the one after, sorry. Something else that I've noticed platforms, even the ones that we are paying for, I'm fine with, the free ones, to be honest, they can do almost what they want as long as they tell me in advance. But even the ones we're paying for, suddenly asking for feedback in the middle of a session. And it's like, God, to me, it's always that thing of it's like if you're having a meeting in an office and in the middle of the office, someone comes in and says, "How's it going? How's the air conditioning?"
Yeah, could you just not interrupt us, please?
Yes.
It is really annoying, isn't it? Or you get the pop-up that says, "How are you liking?" Or "Do you like using my app?" And if you click yes, it immediately says, "Will you go to the App Store and rate it?" No, I'm using it.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd said, "No, I don't like it," then, because then you wouldn't have asked me to go and review it.
Yeah. So I think, again, there's a time and a place, and I think I've noticed less of this, but I think the Microsoft environment, I found that the other day, and it's like, hey, anyway.
Bit needy. Come on, Microsoft. You should be more self-confident.
And talking of Microsoft, I also noticed, because I only use I'm only in Teams meetings when someone else has started a Teams meeting. And it was telling me that the meeting was about to end, and it's not like in Zoom when you have the when you have the free version and it just tells you, so that you're so embarrassed that you pay for it. So I understand that, but there was no, and it's just this message telling me that I need to end my meeting, and I'm thinking, you don't know that, and that's when I'm thinking it's starting to interfere. And it could even,
interesting, because I suppose you've blocked out 45 minutes or whatever on your schedule for it. And in some ways it's good that it's if it gives you a 10-minute warning, right, this was the time, but you should be able to easily extend it if you all agree that you have more to say to each other.
Or I mean, this is the thing that this is an issue not many people have, but I do, is because I don't have many meetings. Meetings for me are really important.
Yeah.
And so I know that we keep to the schedule and the calendar, and there's a very, very good reason for that. But sometimes what we need to be doing is extending it and just seeing that conversation. And if we're thinking of time and productivity, those extra 15 minutes might save us hours later.
Yes. Or they might have pay investments in just the relationship building and maintaining that you don't get to do at any other time. But I suppose it's just a reminder that a lot of people do still work with way too many meetings and back-to-back meetings and no buffer zone in between them. And if we're lucky enough not to work like that, and it's just, we haven't spoken to this person for a long time and let's catch up with them now we've done the agenda, it's easy to go down that route and forget it might be different for them, I suppose.
So yes, I don't mind a person telling me I need to go.
Yeah.
Or we've got 5 more minutes, and I am very happy for that. But I just don't like the person. Yeah, I don't like the application where I don't like the chair to turn round in the meeting room and tell me, hey,
come on, wrap it up, guys.
And I've seen recently, I won't name them, but I did see some recently. There's another application that they schedule. They have a countdown, so you know how much time is left for for your meeting, which is scheduled around topics. So I mean, it's like a whole new way of scheduling meetings, which whatever, welcome. But again, it's like, well, it tells us it's going to finish, and then it reschedules a follow-up meeting. It's like, hang on.
The thing is, just in terms of time management, a follow-up meeting, you might have 5 more minutes of your agenda, but it's not going to schedule a 5-minute meeting, is it? And, because that wouldn't work. You're going to have all that warm-up and chit-chat and all of that again.
I think sometimes that I've seen this in the past as well. And I suppose it's trial and error as well. I mean, I've never had to develop a product, and I know how difficult it is to hit your passion with your problem and the market. But I just wish that I don't know, that we weren't trying to solve what are essentially communication problems of this kind with technology. But I don't know, maybe if I'd been born 50 years ago, I would be not using some stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. Right. So let's maybe we can carry on, and in fact we can carry on in the Microsoft environment. But if we look at the integration of artificial intelligence, which is happening so much now, and it's still in the news, and actually it's been happening for ages. And one of the things I noticed was on Microsoft Word that the editor panel, as in your writing is 68% good.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so a bit like the Grammarly or the ProWriting Aid summaries. And I saw that, and as I was writing, and then I thought, oh, okay.
Do I want that feedback now?
Yes, exactly. I'm sure you can turn it off, but
yes, you probably can. I haven't really been in Word since the Bing acquisition of OpenAI, so I haven't really seen what they've done with it. It doesn't sound like I'm going to like it.
I don't know, because I run into problems because I work with people outside of the organization, virtual not distant, and so that brings and I think being used to Google Docs, it's difficult, but it's integrated with other stuff. But it's got, it's evolved, and the online version is different to the desktop as well.
Yeah, so I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, so that is, I mean, something that's been happening, but there's the more newsworthy integration of things like, hey, Chat GPT.
Yeah,
Maybe.
everywhere you look, we've added
Yes.
some AI in here. Do you want it to write your social media posts or your Slack messages or everything else?
Yeah, so that was Tammy Bjelland. Shout out to her. It's through her that I found out found out that there's a Chat GPT app
Mm.
for Slack, and I was thinking, how I wonder what the use cases are.
Yeah. Draft messages in seconds. Well, that's what Slack's for anyway. It's one of those things that I had it on when it was in the alpha release on Notion, and I thought, okay, it's cool, but it's obviously the same functionality that you got if you go over to a window of ChatGPT. I don't want it here. I kept accidentally typing a space and turning it on, and it would start trying to generate. It's like, no, I'm writing now. Can you leave me alone? I don't know. It's a bubble at the moment. I think people are trying to figure out where this stuff fits, where we need it, where we don't need it, and different people will have so many different use cases for it. And I'm sure that we will see much better integrated and more subtle applications of AI in the stuff we need, where we actually need to use it in a year or two. Whereas now it seems everywhere you look, we've added this. It's going to start generating stuff, whether you like it or not, until you can figure out how to turn it off.
In a way, the people developing these products, they're just too clever, as in, and I'm saying this completely seriously, that everything is going really, really, really fast.
Yeah.
Like this integration has taken, well, I know that ChatGPT has been around for a while, but I imagine that it had been in the background, and it was only maybe a few months ago that they said, oh, we need to integrate this. I don't know, I'm making it up. But Jennifer Riggins has a wonderful conversation going on in LinkedIn about her fears and her reservations as a writer, especially of all the artificial intelligence. And I think that, I mean, the reason I don't know what you would use this for, but actually what I'm worried about is that nobody has really understood exactly what you said, what this stuff is for. And we're already finding that it can be very easily integrated, and sometimes, like you said, maybe even by accident, integrated into our spaces. And we don't even know what this is yet.
It's scary. It really is. And it's not even done yet. What GPT-5 or 6 is going to be quite terrifying in its sheer camouflage amongst our normal conversations and content. And I think we need to figure out where we want that to actually happen first. But right now it's kind of peak hype, I think, with the release of the API, and it's like, oh, we can stick some GPT here and here and here, and hopefully there'll be user feedback, and we'll start to get a grip on it. But it is one of those technologies that I think, I can't remember when I last felt about something that I don't know. I can't begin to think where this is going, what difference it might make in shaping the world.
For me, the whole of the open source, the open access artificial intelligence is like, wow, because the human minds, who knows what they're going to use it for as well.
Yeah, we haven't even figured out most of these ideas and applications at the moment. It's probably just the obvious stuff. Further down the line, who knows? And the more we get, I think a lot of GPT-4's functionality we haven't really seen yet, because we can still only really use it for text in most cases, most consumers. And once we can actually say, right, make me a website or a program that does this or that in plain language, that's going to be wow. So yeah, and the image generation's getting better as well. Still can't do hands.
It can do hands
and feet.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, don't ask DALL-E to do you anything with feet. It's horrible.
Okay, well, that's a limitation. That's good. That's a good start to, yeah. So yes, I think that the problem with all of this for me is just it's so fast and it's so easy to play with that we can very easily just get so distracted when actually it's not gonna. Well, it might not add anything for a while, but anyway.
And we need to figure out, just like you said, who's in control here? What do we want it to do? These are tools. There shouldn't be threats. They shouldn't be taking over, we need to decide how we're going to use it. And I am trying to learn it and master it and get more comfortable with it. I used ChatGPT to help me with headlines for something I was writing a week or two ago. I'm rubbish at headlines anyway. And, I'd never dream of using it to actually write the article, but I was just, I've no idea where to go with this. And copy, paste, dump the whole thing in, give me 10 headlines. And actually the one I went with was a half and half of some of the options it generated. But all the options it generated were passable. And some of them made good tweets. And I thought, okay, it can do this thing that I'm weak at. That's excellent.
It's very good. And if you are stuck for inspiration, or for me, it's like having like someone really like creative next to you. One of those people that you say, have you got an idea for? And they give you something. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So I thought I'd plug the 6th Brussels Digital Workplace Conference.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing a discussion style talk on the 1st of June, 2023. I can't even remember what I named my session, but basically I went into ChatGPT. I said, can you give me 5 titles for a session that talks about asynchronous communication and I don't know what aspect of it.
Great.
And out it came.
Fantastic.
And then I described my session because I'm really bad copywriter. I described my session and said, hey, can you jazz this up? And it did.
That's because it's your ideas. It's just helping to give it a new polished expression or find new ways of expressing it. And I agree, it's that brainstorming, which for those of us who are basically freelancers or solopreneurs, we don't have, the online tools are good, but it's not the same as literally having someone next to you to talk to, or you can't necessarily round them up at the moment. You've got to decide on something. And it's a great way of just generating new perspectives on things. Some of them might be completely off the wall and rubbish, but they're different. They're not things you would have come up with. I actually used it when I was brainstorming about whether to carry on with the Future is Freelance podcast. And, what if I can't get guests? Well, give me 12 possible episode themes. And it just spat out this, half of them I could use.
Yes.
I could actually do that. In fact, there's going to be one coming up very soon on ethical use of AI as a freelancer.
Great.
Because I think I need to dig into it a bit more.
And wonderful. Is that going to be a solo episode?
Yes, that will be a solo episode because it's funny. There's a lot of experts out there now. I don't claim to be one, but I'm not sure who else is either. So I'm feeling my way through on my own.
Well, it's your podcast, and I think one of the things we like about podcasting is being part of the host's journey, playing with whatever they're playing. So that's great. So I'm glad. So Future is Freelance. Look out for that episode. I think it'll be really good. I'm looking forward to it, definitely.
Thank you.
Right, and then a couple more things. So. As well, I think that not to forget the phones, the smartphones, which are so handy and which also have for some of us, our professional life and our personal life. I know, for example, someone who has to use their personal phone to log onto their work environment because there's a 2-step verification process, and they haven't given them phones to be able to do that. And he doesn't like having his phone on him all the time. He's one of these strange people. And I think, and it's that just going back that now they're so in our lives, we don't even think about them. And I think that a lot of the time, some of the problems have to do with the phone as much as the technology.
Yeah, or it's maybe that assumption that whoever decided that was how it's going to work, somebody who works in IT, presumably, they never dreamed that there'd be somebody who wouldn't have the phone on them.
Yeah.
It's like, well, everybody else must be like me in some way, because everybody that works here lives with their smartphone in their hand, but some people don't. And actually just simple things like 2FA to log into things. Yeah, you need another device. Otherwise it's not 2-factor. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get around that. I suppose that comes down to the whole continual trade-off between convenience and security that IT departments will battle with people with. The frontier will move, but the argument will go on.
So, and I saw that there's now I haven't quite looked into it a lot. There's an article, it came through somewhere either, I think it might have been on Twitter, an advert, but it's the Teams phone. So there's now a phone basically, which makes it really easy to be on Teams. So from the from Teams for the meetings, Teams for the chat, everything. And again, I think it's again the business coming into our lives and really saying, hey, we want more of your business, more of your business. We can make your life easier. And sometimes because it's work, I don't know, it's, we might let our guard down. I don't know.
But does this mean is it a really cool phone? Is it going to replace your iPhone, or do you have to have 2 phones?
I don't know.
I don't know,
listeners. If any of you know anything more about this, let us know. You can go over to virtualnotdistant.com. There's a contact form there, or email me, pilar@virtualnotdistant.com, because it'll be really interesting to find out if anyone's got it, how it works, or send us a link with explaining it. I'm sure we can Google it, but get some interaction in. Right. So should we move on to the things we like about the technology? That have made our life, our work life more exciting or easier or something.
I know that we have had a good moan today, but actually, I know both of us are totally geeky collaboration nerds, and we love this stuff, really, don't we?
Yes, I really do. And honestly, I don't say it much, but I am very, very grateful to the people who've developed these things. And I can still get around the fact that Trello you can use for free, Slack you can use for free. It started to change some stuff that it makes it less attractive, I think. Zoom, you can have a very good experience with the free version. There's loads. So yes, and it's amazing that the stuff is not just there working very well. So I talked of Zoom, and so I did a session for the lovely Miriam Hadness and her community of Never Done Before. And Miriam is a facilitator. She's based in the Netherlands. I've recorded for facilitation stories with her. I recorded for Adventures in Podcasting, and I've been on her show, Workshops Work. And she's got this community of facilitators, and they do workshops every now and then. And the only prerequisite is that it's got to be a session you've never done before. Has never done before. And it's great because it's a group of facilitators, so you're in a very, very safe space and with people who will try anything you throw at them. So I used the Zoom avatars and effects for an exercise. So if you go into Zoom and then go to the background tab, there's also an effects, and you can put stuff in your face, like you can have like an animal nose and ears and stuff. And I used it for an exercise. It was all about trusting your gut instinct. And I used it it was kind of a role play. It was kind of a mask effect.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never only used that for fun things, like with family stuff with the kids and things. I never thought of using it as an actual facilitation tool.
Yeah, it worked wonderfully. And I think everyone will, people will start to think about it. It was really interesting that one of them hadn't updated their Zoom recently. And even when she did, she logged off and came back on. So we ended up luckily she had a hat that she could use instead in her house. And then asked her to wave a pen just to give her a different physicality. But it's really interesting that I can even, talking to you now, think about if we're thinking of psychological safety. We can turn off our cameras, which might help people to speak more freely and more comfortably, but also we can also hide behind these personas and use them to feel differently about talking about something. So and that is still in beta. The avatars are still in beta, and it's just amazing. And again, it's a fun thing, like you said, but actually we can use it for work.
Yes. It gives us new challenges professionally to think, how could we use this?
Yes.
What benefit could it bring to what we're trying to achieve, especially if we're trying to transition skills that we've used in a face-to-face environment to online. It gives you another dimension of that.
And the other thing I think was a shout out to Yen Tan, who's been a guest in the show before. It was the episode on remote manager struggles. Put the link in the show notes. But they and her two co-founders have this app that integrates with Slack called Kona, and it asks you how you feel at the beginning of the day, and is really a way of, if you're using it in your team, opening up the conversation about mental health. What I like about that as well is that it could change how you operate, but there's that full decision of integrating it, and it's very visible, something that's there. So you can connect with it, but you know that there's a piece of technology there that's asking you this stuff. So it doesn't feel like it's controlling you.
Yes, and it's not too intrusive, and it just helps to keep that conversation alive and give remote managers some useful information, particularly about changes. It might not give you necessarily a single data point how my team is feeling, but if you see a shift one way or the other, that could be quite significant. It's great they got coverage in The Guardian.
Yeah, it's really good. A whole Kona startup mental burnout. It's really good, and I really like I didn't know this because they're much younger. They're like half our age or something, the founders, and their generation Z, which apparently is much better at talking about mental health issues.
Yeah, I would say that as parent of Gen Z. Yeah, we have a lot of conversations about their emotions, and
it's really good. I think it's really good because we need that. Shall we move on to other news?
Other news, let's do it.
So there's a piece of research that came out. It's Nick Bloom and colleagues with their monthly updates about working from home. And I thought it was really interesting. They looked at the engagement that people felt in meetings, whether they had the camera on or off. And well, one I found, maybe I can pull this up, that actually there were quite a lot of people that saw no difference. I think it was about almost 40%, I think. And then there were maybe another 40% that saw some more engagement with the camera on, and then a smaller percentage that had more engagement with the camera off. But actually, I thought it was really interesting because the rhetoric a lot of the time seems to be that camera on gives you more engagement, whereas actually maybe not.
Yeah, and what sort of engagement do you want? And I think it needs a bit more of a nuanced kind of decision about that, because they've been having issues. My 18-year-old daughter is doing online school, and most of her class are a tiny bit younger, 16, 17, and they're trying to get them to switch their cameras on at the moment because they've become convinced it will make them more engaged. And I think it means it will give them more feedback of who's paying attention in a big class. And actually, the teenagers hate it. The girls particularly do not want their webcam on. They've got their chosen sort of profile picture that they've done the makeup and the filters and everything else, and that's how they want to represent themselves. And for teachers, they turn the webcam off, they all freak out, and they really don't want it at all. And if they do turn them on, that they're engaged, but they're probably paying more attention to each other and their appearance.
They're not engaged. They're looking at the camera.
Yes, so they look engaged, and they look, and the teacher can look up and see all these eyes and think that they're paying attention, but instead they're thinking, oh, she doesn't look like her profile picture.
I think that point is so spot on, Maya, that the wanting cameras to be on or off, sometimes it's as much about the person who's asking for that.
Yeah.
If you're running a meeting, for example, you might want everyone's cameras on because you need it. And you know what? I think that is fine. And you can say it.
Yeah, you need that feedback. It's like doing a webinar 10 years ago on a Adobe Connect or something where you didn't know that you'd lost your connection till someone phoned you.
Yes.
It's like you're just basically talking to a blank screen and nothing coming back. It is nice to get that, people looking at you, but it's as much about what you need.
Yeah, and I think that this word, you're right, that the word engagement is not great, because some people think engagement is that everyone is commenting all the time on something, but engagement might be that they're just deeply listening, reflecting, making notes. Well, it'd be nice to see it. I quite like sometimes when I don't mind if everyone if I'm doing a webinar, I don't mind if people have their cameras off, because I just talk like now with a podcast. But I do like it when I see people taking notes, because it means, well, again, they could be taking down anything, but in my mind, they're taking their reflections on what is happening.
Yes, that's what we tell ourselves. It's like doing a live keynote or something. If you see people on their phones and you think, hopefully they're tweeting about how awesome I am. Not checking their emails.
Yeah, there's a great comparison, because when people are in a room together, everyone in a way has their camera on.
Yes.
Doesn't mean they're listening or feeling like they're connecting with you.
Well, soon we'll be able to have filters that we can just snap in front of our faces.
That'd be, well, let's not laugh too much, because
it's coming.
Online practice is going now into the physical space, it's gonna happen. Something I also found interesting that they said in the sorry, and by the way, listeners, do follow the link if you're interested, because they also make a differentiation between small meetings, large meetings, and all of this, which is very important. I mean, context is everything. And then there's something that said workers with a bachelor's degree, so a degree or more education. Workers with a bachelor's degree or more education are far more likely to turn on their camera during video call work meetings than workers with less education, something they found. And then, similarly, workers under 40 are more likely to turn their cameras on in meetings. And this goes back to your point, but this is in a work environment. So
yeah, and I'm sure both of those are manifestations of kind of remote privilege of knowledge work, really, that you're more likely to be in a kind of occupation where you're very comfortable with video calling, depending on your education level, and also to an extent, age can signify digital inclusion, what you grew up with as opposed to what you've adopted. And I'm sure that's a factor that millennial workers are just grown up on webcams, whereas some of us have had to get used to it.
And some of us had to go through it being really. I remember when the connections were starting to get better. I was doing a job with an organization which had online meetings for a very long time, and so by default they always had their cameras off because of bandwidth, and they were really resistant to turning it on because, like you're saying, it was a shift, not just in how we meet, but actually in how we meet online. Yeah,
so we got over it, didn't we? I think most people did. Really, during the lockdowns, people got used to it and they just had to. And now they're probably a lot better than they were. That's sort of one positive outcome, that people are used to seeing other people and themselves staring back at a screen.
Although I don't like that people always now want meetings on video rather than phone calls. I don't understand that.
Yeah,
preference.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And and again, we have so much variety as well, a different quality of cameras and environments and so on. And if you're doing a webcast or something, then you really need it and you should really pay attention to that. And the rest of the time, you might as well turn it off and maybe you can focus on what you're saying. I mean, we haven't got cameras on at the moment. And, we're able to think about what we're saying to each other rather than looking at each other. We know what we look like.
Yeah, the only problem is I interrupt you all the time. But
yeah, but lovely Ross will pull out the different audio tracks and make it. So don't tell anybody that we do that.
Right, good. Well, this is a great conversation. Maybe we can end with an email from a listener. I was so happy because I know people listen, but if you're like me, you listen to podcasts, hopefully you enjoy it, and that's why you're here at minute 49 with us. But then, of course, you never have the time or the inclination to get in touch, and I'm like that. I listen to so many shows, but somebody did. Yes, not just send us a note, but actually give some information. So thank you, Richard. I'll read the note and said, "Hi, Pilar, love what you do and sharing details to a report on the findings of a company-wide async first experiment conducted by TechSmith, just in case you haven't seen or heard of it." Hadn't. So there's a link to the report, which we will put in the show notes, and then he said, below quotes their intro to the report. Flexible work demands innovation. Meetings are getting impossible to coordinate. Schedules rarely align, and bouncing from call to conference room leaves no time for actual work to get done. How do we have fewer, better meetings? We decided it was time to reboot our meeting culture and communication norms at TechSmith. So we embarked on a company-wide async first experiment. Employees were allowed to cancel all their meetings for a month, and we collected data and feedback to see what was working and what wasn't. Take care, regards, Richard. Richard, thank you very much.
And fascinating to learn about all these different experiments which are going on into this kind of like meeting detox.
Yes.
Like people are like, right, we go cold turkey. We'll just delete everything out of the calendar and then try and add back what we really need. Seems like a really good approach.
Yeah, it was really great. Listeners, I encourage you to check out the PDF and then ask yourself all the questions that you need to about the study. So, yes, Maya, anything else you want to say to listeners before we wrap up episode 324?
No, I think this has been a really interesting one. I love it when we geek out on the tech stuff, and I think we should, I don't know, put a pin in the diary or something for March 2024.
Yes.
Come back and just see where are we at with all the AI and everything else, because it's just fascinating how quickly it's all moving.
Excellent, because we do love the tech. So thank you very much for all of you working in the space. You've made our life easy. Thank you, Ross, for polishing this episode in advance. And listeners, thank you very, very, very much for listening. A big thank you to Ross Winter for polishing the audio of this episode. And thank you, listeners, for choosing to listen to the 21st Century Work-Life podcast. Remember to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app, and you can check out the full show notes over at virtualnotdistant.com/podcasts. Talking of podcasts, we have another show you can listen to, Management Cafe, which you should also be able to find on all podcast apps. I have been Pilar Ortiz. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, enjoy.